In this video, we're going to get into Ansible roles, and this is a way to structure our code in such a way that it's easily reusable and also scalable. So right now we have, multiple playbooks that we have to run, but we can take those and sort of divide those up and put the code in to roles that we make, and then we just put devices, or we can put device groups in roles that inherit all that configuration. So it's just an easy way to scale out, and it's based on a known file structure that we'll see within Ansible of how to make this happen. So let's get to the topology here, which the topology won't change, so there's no configuration changes being made in this video. It's just going to be refactoring our existing code into Ansible roles. The biggest thing is it's based on a known file structure. So we're going to follow this pattern that it has here. So we're going to make a site.yaml, which is going to trigger the whole thing. So instead of running the playbooks independently like we've been doing, we're just going to run site.yaml and it's going to kick them off for us. So, up till this point, we've got 3 playbooks here. And if we want to run them, we have to run them independently. But with roles, it's going to let us kick everything off from site.yaml. And the structure here is we're going to make a role folder, and then we're going to make anything under the roles folder represents a role. So in this example, it's called common. We're going to make one called all that we're going to stick everything in, and then we'll make one called routers that will stick routers in, and then switches that will stick switches in, and then in the next video we'll make more that are kind of feature related. And then in the common folder you can have many other folders, but you only need these folders if you use them. We're going to keep it simple, and we're going to just have a tasks folder and then a main.yaml folder. So we're just going to have roles, some role that we want, and then tasks main.yaml. So we're going to take from our playbooks that we have. So say we have our second playbook. We're going to extract these. We're going to copy these out, these tasks, and then we're going to put them into this folder right here. And then we're going to go into main and import the tasks. We could also put them directly in the main, which we may do later, but somehow they need to be associated with this main, because when we trigger site.yaml, one thing it needs to look at is this main, and it'll run it on the devices that it needs to. So this will make a little more sense as we get to it. So let me make a few, let's look at right now what we have, and we'll see how it'll change. So this is what we started out with. There's no roles directory. I'm going to make the roles directory real quick, and then I'm going to make 3 roles. I'm going to make an all routers and switches, and then we'll come back and see how to use them. Okay, so if we look at what we have now, we've made a roles folder, and then an all role, a routers role, a switches role, and then we have a tasks folder, and then we have an empty main.yaml in there. And so what we want to do now, let's just start with the all. So this will apply to everything. Let's look at our maybe our first playbook that we made changes on, which is called second playbook. This is these basic settings. So what I'm going to do now is take these tasks and copy them into the tasks folder. I'm going to make a new file, just call it basic.yaml, and all I'm going to move are these tasks. All right, so you can see I just pretty much copied and pasted these tasks into this basic folder. Now, one thing I didn't take is the play. We're not going to need that anymore. The one thing we will need is this connection network CLI. Since we're not including that, that's not in our tasks, I'm just going to move this one thing here to our all variable which we already have in our group vars. I'm just going to put that at the end here, and I'll use the full name here just to be consistent. All right, I just put the full name for everything in there. Now that we have that, you know, we can only put that in one place, which makes it a little bit cleaner. Okay, so now what we need to do is let's look at our structure. Now we have this basic, but now we need to import that basic into main, because this is going to be our main thing that triggers our tasks. So let's go to main.yaml. This is a YAML file, and we'll just say import tasks basic.yaml. So let's save this. Now, also notice one thing I did is I put the role. So here, all routers and switches, there's a corresponding routers, switches, all is way up here because it's showing it in alphabetical order, it looks like. But this is where we assign the roles from. So let's go to our all.yaml. So here are hosts. This references our group variable. So everything that's in the all group gets the roles called all. So they're named the same thing here, but they're different. This is the group variable, which we made in another previous video. And everything in there, which in our case is every single network device, we're going to give it the roles called all. So what that means, if we give everything the roles called all, then it's going to trigger this main.yaml on every single device we have. And then main imports basic. And so this is just the structure here that once we get it down, it's a lot much easier to work with. It just maybe takes a minute to get used to. And then the last thing we really need to do, is, at least for these tasks here, is I said we kick everything off with, and I don't know if I've made it yet, site.yaml. So I made it. It's empty. Let's populate it. So site.yaml. So here in our site.yaml, we're importing the all.yaml, which we just made, which is going to trigger the tasks for everything in the all.yaml. So once we have that, we can run this. And what it's going to run now is just the two tasks. So we had the second playbook. We can, it's here as well. Let's remove that just to make sure it's not running that. We should have, this should not be part of the thing anymore. So, okay. Looks like it's gone, but everything that was in here should still work. We just simply have moved it to the roles directory. So let's run Ansible playbook site.yaml. So there's our logging task. All right, it's finished, and it did not make any changes, and it ran the same, basically ran the same playbook. We just did it in the role fashion. So we got rid of one playbook, and we've put everything, basically we just copied and pasted the tasks and put them here into this basic.yaml, which is then imported here, and then this is imported in our site.yaml imports and adds to the group here. Let's look at this again. Site.yaml imports the playbook all.yaml. Let's look at all.yaml. It sets the roles. So hosts, this is our host variable. So for everything, I want it to run the all role, which all role means it's going to run that on these devices. So hopefully that makes sense. So what we want to do now, I'll go a little faster here. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to repeat the process for the routers group and not the all group. So I'm going to take, I know we have this playbook of interfaces. I'm going to take the ones relating to the routers, so which would be this first play, and I'm going to get rid of them from here, or I'll just copy them out, move them into right here, or I'll make a new task and then import them. And then let's see what that looks like. Okay, so I've moved all the tasks over. Let's look at our structure. So let's also remove this playbook, so that way, oh, I'm not going to remove it yet, actually, because we still have switches on there. But there's our interfaces, which are simply the tasks here from here that relate to the routers. Copied and pasted them here, and then imported here. So let's look at roles, routers, tasks. Here's interfaces, which is simply just consists of the tasks. And then we have our main, which imports it. Right, and then our routers file here, it just assigns hosts, routers, which in our case, we know that it is the 3 routers, and we're giving it the role called routers, and the role called routers is going to be this, anything in here, which triggers this. And then in our site.yaml, last thing is we went and imported the playbook for routers. So if we run this now, again, it's going to be the same site.yaml file. It should trigger, again, the all role, which is on all devices, which is, we already know that's compliant. And then it should move down to, after NTP, it should move down to the routers setting the interfaces. All right, now that this is done, we can see it did run everything, didn't make any changes. And just to finish this up, I'm going to quickly do the same thing for the switches. All right, now that I've done that with the switches, again, I've taken the relevant tasks out here. So I'm going to remove this. Don't need this anymore. Whoops. Remove. Okay, that's gone now. Our first playbook is only show commands. So here we've completely moved everything into the roles, the way the roles work. So let's look at it again. Yeah, so all of our tasks we have in these files, and then we're importing them into the main. And then we have our roles. So there's router role, switches role, and then in that we're assigning, we're taking the group variables that's in our inventory file, and then we're assigning the roles. And in this video, they're all the same right now. So there's a router's role, and then there's a router's group. In the next video, we'll make those different, separate those out just to see what that looks like. Because we'll have some devices running EIGRP and some not. Some running BGP, or one running BGP, and then the rest not. So we'll see how that looks when they're different. But now that everything is in this neat little structure, we're going to run the playbook for the last time. And you can see one benefit of this is you don't have to trigger each one of those playbooks manually that we had before, because over time you'll grow it and you'll have tons, and you don't want to sit there and run them one after another. So you can, this kicking off this site.yaml basically kicks off our complete full automation. Okay, so here it does look like it finished the switches, and then there's our routers. So we're essentially where we were before this video started as far as configuration, but we're in a pretty good state as far as expansion, because all we need to do is make roles. Like if we have something new, you can make this on features. So we'll make a new role, make a new tasks folder, and then make all the configs we want, and then we just assign devices to this role and it will get this configuration. So we're at a better scalable place. So in the next video, we're just going to finish this little series up. We're going to complete our configuration, and we're going to use the roles to do so. And we're going to configure EIGRP and BGP to complete our topology.